Tonight, a Toronto terror plot foiled. The father and son arrested with a machete and axe.
We're in the advanced stages of planning a serious, violent attack in Toronto.
Taken out in Tehran, a top Hamas leader killed.
These reports certainly don't help with the temperature going down.
Fueling fears of a wider war. Donald Trump questions his rival's race.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Plus, Team Canada beats the odds on the pitch in Paris, but the spying scandal hovers on the sidelines.
You take your medicine if you're those Canadian players, and you keep forging ahead.
And MIA for over a decade.
I got a goosebumps just like now. I couldn't believe it.
The cat that came clawing back.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. A father and son are facing terrorism charges tonight, accused of plotting a serious attack in Toronto. Police say the two were close to carrying out the plan, even purchasing weapons. CTV's John Woodward tonight with the arrest and the connection to ISIS.
Surveillance video obtained by CTV News shows a white van pull up on a Scarborough street on Sunday night, and out comes an RCMP tactical squad with its guns drawn.
Well, we heard a bang on Sunday night, I believe.
The operation not the only one in the Toronto area by anti-terror unit INSET. Police explaining in a news conference Wednesday that they found their targets in another location.
On July 28, 2024, GTN INSET arrested a father and son at a hotel in Richmond Hill who were in the advanced stages of planning a serious, violent attack in Toronto.
Exactly what that attack would be, officers wouldn't say, but court documents offered a clue. 62-year-old Ahmed El Didi and 26-year-old Mustafa El Didi are both charged with facilitating a terrorist activity, participating in a terrorist group, ISIS, and conspiracy to commit murder. The father also charged with aggravated assault outside Canada in 2015 and possession of an axe. His son with possession of a machete.
How close they were to moving from simply having those tools and then moving on to actioning that threat. And so I couldn't tell you 6 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours.
Police say the pair didn't obtain firearms and they believe they've caught all who were involved. It's not clear who the target of the attack may have been. The pair, both Toronto residents and Canadian citizens. A Canadian flag visible on the home at their listed address in Scarborough. The grass not tended to in some time. Neighbors said their family included a wife and another son. They operated a car detailing business out of the home.
And I would see the boys outside playing the music loud, washing their cars.
Neighbor Raju Mohan said he could tell the home was being watched by the cars outside.
But to find out that it was related to a terrorism charge and that too connected with ISIS was really, really terrible for us.
ISIS, or the Islamic State, has recruited Canadians before. Mohammed Khalifa voiced its propaganda videos, and in Mississauga this year, 3 men were convicted of a mass shooting at the Chickenland restaurant. A court heard they pledged allegiance to ISIS. The pair are due back in court Thursday.
Proving the elements of that case involved you have to show the intent, steps taken to ultimately carry out that conspiracy as opposed to just a random conversation, let's kill somebody, yeah, okay.
After the night raids put the father and son in custody, it's the court that will decide whether to keep them there. John Woodward, CTV News, Toronto.
More than 20 years ago, a terrorist attack changed the world, but it's only today we learned the man accused of being the 9/11 mastermind agreed to a guilty plea. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 others will be spared the death penalty by pleading guilty to murder and conspiracy. All are being held at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. Mohammed was arrested in 2003 and charged with plotting the attacks on September 11, 2001 that killed almost 3,000 people. Back-to-back attacks in the Middle East are igniting fears of a wider conflict. Yesterday, a top Hezbollah military commander was killed in Lebanon. Today, a senior Hamas leader died in Iran. Ismail Haniyeh was in Beirut as a guest of the regime, and Iran vows to avenge his death. Here's CTV's Heather Wright.
He was the top political leader of Hamas, on Israel's hit list since the October 7th attacks. And early this morning, Ismail Haniyeh was killed in an airstrike in Tehran along with his bodyguard. A strike that is further ratcheting up tension in the region.
Iran has been using proxies up until now, but now we are right inside Iran, and there will be repercussions because of it.
Today, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowed revenge. We consider it our duty to avenge his blood in this bitter and difficult incident that happened in the territory of the Islamic Republic. Israel has neither confirmed nor denied it was behind the assassination. Though today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there would be a heavy price for any revenge attacks, acknowledging the crushing blows delivered to Iran's proxies in the last 2 days. On Tuesday, Israel killed Hezbollah's top military commander in a strike on a Beirut suburb, a response to an attack in the Golan Heights over the weekend that killed 12 children. Both Hezbollah and Hamas, along with the Houthis in Yemen, have been key players in the ongoing proxy war between Israel and Iran, which is now weighing how to respond to this latest escalation.
We saw back in April that they can launch UAVs and rockets and missiles that as of yet are not particularly effective. However, the Iranians have a long arm through this network of proxies and terror groups. So I think they will strike back in a painful and symbolic way.
U.S. officials are hopeful a wider regional conflict can still be avoided, but Haniyeh was a key part of ceasefire negotiations, which are now very much on hold. Morella.
Heather, thank you. There is no debate. Donald Trump is raising eyebrows again today, this time for questioning Kamala Harris's race. At a convention of black journalists, Trump said the U.S. vice president happened to turn black a few years ago. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
Donald Trump, who usually loves the spotlight, bristled on this stage in front of the National Association of Black Journalists. When repeatedly asked tough questions about racism, he lashed out.
You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you?
Not only did Trump disparage the journalist who challenged him, he insulted Vice President Kamala Harris by implying she was using her black heritage for political advantage.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always...
Harris's father emigrated from Jamaica. Her mother emigrated from India. The vice president also attended Howard University, a historically black university.
Good afternoon, everybody.
The White House defended Harris against Trump's inflammatory words.
What he just said, what you just read out to me, is repulsive, it's insulting, and, you know, no one has any right to tell someone who they are.
At that same convention, Trump also claimed that the only president who has done more for black people than himself was Abraham Lincoln. Vice President Kamala Harris has yet to respond. Morella.
Judy, thanks for that. And late tonight at a rally, Harris did respond.
And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better.
The Court of Arbitration has responded to an appeal by Team Canada, deciding to leave the 6-point deficit in place for the women's soccer team. The team was penalized for spying on another team, and the decision came as the women played a do-or-die match. Here's CTV's Scott Hurst.
They are the reigning Olympic champions caught up in controversy at Paris 2024, yet still alive in competition. The Canadian women's soccer team in a must-win match against Colombia, beating the 22nd ranked team in the world by a score of 1-0. This as a Court of Arbitration for Sport tribunal earlier denying Canada's request to reinstate 6 points, docked from them due to the drone spying scandal.
You take your medicine if you're those Canadian players, and you keep forging ahead.
Despite all the outside noise on the pitch, the women have been perfect so far, and a win over Colombia gives them a shot at defending their gold putting them through to the quarterfinals, despite their head coach Bev Priestman being sent home and suspended for 1 year. Meanwhile, in the pool, bronze for Canada. 19-year-old Ilya Haroun in the men's 200-meter butterfly final, touching the wall in third, setting a Canadian record. To the River Seine, the source of so much discussion and controversy leading up to the Games, it was still not clean enough for Olympic competition as late as yesterday. 2 training events had to be canceled and the men's race postponed until today. The women's event got underway first with Canadian Emmy Legault finishing 35th. On the men's side, Canadian Tyler Mislachuk finishing 9th. An impressive performance considering this is a comeback after an Achilles tear had him out of competition.
At times it felt like, maybe I'll never come back. So to be standing on the start line, healthy and fit was a win in itself.
All the talk about water quality aside, that was not the Canadian triathletes' main concern.
People could talk about quality, but the current was so strong. We went out in almost 3 minutes and came back in 9 minutes.
Countryman Charles Paquette was not far behind, crossing the finish line in 13th. Getting back to the soccer pitch, Canada will play its quarterfinal match against Germany. That will take place on Saturday, Morella.
All right, Scott, thank you. And let's get back to the soccer spying scandal. We have some new details to share. Emails that suggest a Team Canada analyst was morally against spying and told the head coach. That led Bev Priestman to seek advice from an HR consultant, saying, regarding this formal email on spying, it's something the analyst has always done. Let's bring in TSN's Rick Westhead on this. Rick, how long ago were these emails written? What more did we learn from them?
Well, the email thread is from about 4 months ago, before the Olympics in Paris started, and they really do offer us some more context for what Canada soccer officials came to know about this spying scandal. Remember, one of the analysts for Canada soccer, Joey Lombardi, an assistant coach, was arrested by police in Paris after he was caught flying a drone over New Zealand's team's practice. He spent 3 days in jail, and then he was sent home to Canada along with another assistant coach. Bev Priestman, the head coach of Canada's women's national team, was asked directly about this, about her knowledge of this, and she really deflected and didn't answer that question directly. Well, now we know from these emails that Canada Soccer was able to obtain, Bev Priestman knew what was going on, and that's the reason that she was sent home, and that's the reason that all 3 of those coaches have been suspended for a year.
All right. There's also a suggestion today that the spying started well before Priestman even took over the team.
That's right. FIFA received a document from Canada Soccer. Canada Soccer believes this all started with the women's national program when John Herdman was the head coach. Important to note that Bev Priestman was an assistant under Herdman, and that the Federation also believes that the practice carried over to the men's national team when Coach Herdman joined that program as well.
All right, Rick, thanks for that. Appreciate it. So mortgage rules are changing to give first-time home buyers more time to pay back loans. It's meant to help. Some say it doesn't because it only applies to newly built homes. CTV's Michael Couture takes a look.
We're changing the rules of the game.
The government is putting a big push behind what many call a small change to the mortgage rules. First-time home buyers will be given 5 more years to pay off an insured mortgage for a newly built home.
That translates to lower monthly payments, so more younger Canadians can afford to pay that monthly mortgage on a new home.
Right now, a $500,000 home with a 5% down payment would mean a monthly mortgage payment of nearly $2,800. Extending the amortization period by 5 years would lower monthly payments by about $240. So will it help more young people get into the housing market?
Very little. Honestly, it's not going to move the needle.
Mortgage specialist Frank Napolitano points out Canadians continue to deal with an affordability crisis.
Interest rates that are still pretty elevated, and young Canadians that are struggling to come up with down payment without the bank of mom and dads.
The new policy also only applies to new builds.
All of it, if one wants to buy a new condo or pre-construction
A condo, it can take years for that. So it's probably not for everybody.
Robert Ogue says the federal government has put a focus on increasing housing supply. However, some builders believe the key is to get all levels of government on the same page.
If you want to build affordable housing, it can't be just one. It has to be everyone has to get together, and they have to work together. And they're starting to, but they're just not there yet.
While the federal government has taken a number of steps to address the housing crisis, many in the industry say real progress won't come unless the Bank of Canada lowers interest rates even further. Michael Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, the missing money.
Could be in a shoebox under his bed.
Victims of a crypto scam looking to collect. Plus, the return of the long-lost feline. First, they were the victims of a cryptocurrency scheme. Now they feel like victims all over again. That's because the man who owes them money isn't paying up even after selling his luxury Lamborghini. CTV's Adrian Gabriel has exclusive details on the pursuit of payback.
Nice day for a burnout.
This is Colin Murphy, posing for a photo with his 2017 Lamborghini Huracan. Investors believe that Murphy was an associate of Canada's self-proclaimed crypto king, Aidan Platursky.
I started cashing it out and I started spoiling myself.
Like Platursky, Murphy promised massive returns on investment.
He had some toys and some money. There was a belief on my part that he was legit, for sure.
Craig Sutherland says he invested $270,000 with Murphy. Just 5 months after the initial investment, Murphy sent him a message claiming his returns had more than doubled. Though Sutherland soon learned it was too good to be true. Unable to access his earnings, he launched a civil suit and began speaking out. Sutherland has since received word that an individual has been trying to hire someone to kill him.
I learned that there's been an offer out there to take care of me, get rid of me.
Sutherland hired lawyer Norman Groot to lead his civil case and track down Murphy's assets.
Mr. Murphy initially advised that he sold a Lamborghini for $20,000.
Though just recently a second alleged victim of Murphy's, who asked we conceal her identity, found Murphy's Lamborghini online for sale at this dealership in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
I had Googled the VIN number and 3 2017 Lamborghini Huracan links showed up. I said to myself, I'm like, we got him.
According to an American buyer, Murphy sold the Lamborghini in Las Vegas, not for $20,000, but for $120,000 cash. The buyer's lawyer even sent this photo of the cash exchange. Murphy has previously refused to hand over vital information.
Are there any weapons in the house?
In 2023, cameras were rolling when lawyer Norman Groot and a private investigator arrived at a home where Murphy was staying to seize his digital devices. A phone was found hiding in the bathroom. Murphy grabbed it and refused to hand it over. When he finally did the next day, it had been erased. Victims claim Murphy is hiding a digital cryptocurrency wallet.
He showed me his floating balance that he had on his phone. It was like $1.3 million in his phone.
In crypto.
In crypto.
Murphy was convicted of contempt for wiping his phone. As for the cash from his recent car sale, that too remains a mystery.
The big question is, where is the money?
It could be in a shoebox under his bed.
Murphy is being summoned by the courts to appear and disclose where the missing money from the Lamborghini sale is located. A date has yet to be set. Morella.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Straight ahead, leaving the lattes behind. Starbucks sees a drop in sales as consumers ditch costly coffees. It looks like more coffee drinkers are skipping the Starbucks run. The coffee giant reporting a slowdown in sales. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman.
When cravings call, customers line up.
No, I just love this drink. Every time I go to Starbucks, I have to pick up one of these.
I know it's quite costly, but I stop at every Starbucks that I go. I travel a lot.
Prices push some away.
Make it at home. Lasts me longer. Cheaper in the long run.
Around the world, fewer people went to Starbucks and McDonald's last quarter. The second straight drop in sales for Starbucks and the first dip in more than 3 years for McDonald's.
Something has gone wrong. They've either overshot their price or they aren't giving people the right benefits, and they've now got to rethink that.
In Inflation has taken a bite out of people's budgets and now chains sales. Some face pressure from homemade drinks and meals or competitors.
Consumers are looking for value, but also something of innovative value. They want low prices, but they want something unique.
Looking to lure people back, chains invested in speeding up wait times and brought in value and pairings menus. Think a drink and bite for less. Analysts expect more of it.
You're going to see retailers and restaurants sort of focus a lot of their advertising and marketing on price, on value, how you can eat for $5 or $7.
Even with these value menus, the question becomes, will they stick around or are they temporary? Perhaps consumers' behavior will help decide. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
After the break, a perfect reunion, a decade in the making. We leave you tonight with a story about the cat that came back. Jinx is a feline that disappeared a dozen years ago, but found its way home. CTV's Scott Lightfoot reports.
Mary Lynn Simon was at her desk at work when she got the call last week.
I could barely make sense of it. She said, "Is Jinx missing?"
Jinx was Simon's Abyssinian cat who had gone missing back in 2011.
He was an indoor cat, and I had him from the time he was a kitten. And then when we moved, he would have been 2 years old, and he discovered the great outdoors.
Over the past 13 years, Simon wondered what had happened to Jinx and whether or not he was even still alive.
It's difficult. It's sad.
And then last week, she found out Jinx was not only alive and well, but had also made it some 20 kilometers from the west side of Toronto to the east side of town.
Did he have an owner, more than one owner? Did he travel by foot? If only he could speak.
Jinx can't speak, but the man who found him can. Louis Georgievsky was on his way home from the dentist last Tuesday when something caught his eye at the side of the road.
I said, "Oh my God, that's a cat, that bus stop." So I drove, I made a turn, and I come back.
Louis scooped up the cat, put him in the car, and drove him straight to his veterinarian's office.
I'll ask him to check for microchip. If he has a microchip, we're happy. And sure enough, he had a microchip.
And that's where the connection was made, that Jinx had an owner. But when Louis found out that Jinx had been missing for more than a decade...
I got a goosebumps just like now. I couldn't believe it. 12 years cat missing? Wow.
For Louis, what made the discovery of Jinx even more emotional was the day that he found that cat. It was the exact same day his own cat disappeared. Now Louis hopes someone else will do what he did and help find his missing cat.
That cat is not stray. That cat has an owner. I'm the owner of that cat. The rightful thing is, please bring my cat back.
And in the meantime, he's happy he managed to return Jinx to his home and to an owner who missed their cat just as much as he does. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News, Toronto.